I think in the book you mentioned that there's a very long Wikipedia article on cognitive biases, and obviously you couldn't
Yeah.
fit them all into the book, or else it would be significantly longer than it already is, and then you already anticipated at the outset. But are there any others that we haven't talked about that you find particularly fascinating or amusing?
I guess the general one is that I think matters a lot. Comes under different names, but it's the my side bias,
The my
and
side.
it's a natural bias to to interpret information and to focus on things in ways that benefit you and yours. So so Julia Galef actually has a better way of talking about it. She calls it the soldier mindset, where you have an idea and you want to defeat other arguments. You want to conquer and you want to do it, as opposed to what she recommends, which is the scout mindset, which is more of a neutral way of looking at things. And there's all sorts of examples of it. Here's one which I like. You ask people, you say this to people, somebody sues you for something, and the suit is unsuccessful. Should they have to pay your legal costs? And people say, yeah, that just makes sense. Then you ask a bunch of other people, suppose you sue somebody and the suit's unsuccessful. Should you have to pay their legal costs? And people say, no. That's the same question. The general principle is the same. X sues Y, should X fail, should X pay legal costs? But if it's framed in your side or another side, the perception changes accordingly. And there's a million examples of that from politics. So a classic study, actually by Jeffrey Cohen at Stanford University, a long time ago, he gave people, I said, what do you think of this welfare policy? And described a certain welfare policy. And he had two versions. One is, by American standards, extremely generous. Another one is, by American standards, extremely stingy. He told people either this is from the Democrats or this is from the Republicans. It turns out that the policy itself had very little influence on what people thought about it. If people are Democrat and it's from the Democrats, they think it's a great policy. If they're Democrat and they think it's Republicans, they think it's a terrible policy, and so on. If we're from all the political parties, all the permutations, we tend very much to think our side is right, and I think that's a very persuasive bias, particularly in the political realm.
Oh, yeah. I mean, so much of our political stagnation clearly results from this phenomenon. And it's an example, a crucial example, where our irrationality trumps our, no pun intended, trumps our rationality, and much to our detriment, not just as individuals, but as a civilization or collection of them.
So I think that's exactly right. From a certain mode of rationality, I think it makes the world worse. It makes the world worse where you apply different standards for your person you like than person you don't like. It leads to polarization. It leads to stupidity and so on. But let me try this out. I think at a local level, it actually is fairly rational.
That's what I was thinking.
And because basically, we're both liberals, so we go to a party of liberals and everything, and all of a sudden somebody says something about Trump, and everybody says, "Oh, Trump's terrible. That's a terrible thing," and you say, "No, actually, by the standards I would normally neutrally apply, that Trump is not to be blamed for that." Well, maybe you got it right. We don't like you anymore.
Mm-hmm.
We're all conservatives, and we're talking about Biden, and everybody else says Biden's just really old and senile. You say, no, actually, I've done isn't that old and senile, and nobody likes you anymore. And so the question that we have to ask is, what do you want? If you want to find the truth, or if you're interested in the world working, America working, and so on, the my side bias is a disaster. But if you want to be loved by your side, the my side bias is just the thing.
Mm-hmm. This is actually a big problem for me at the moment, because in the same spirit that I wanted to ask you for a sober take on psychoanalysis, I mean, I would like to have more conservative voices on the podcast, but at the same time, I recognize that even though this is in the spirit of rationality and free speech and seeing multiple viewpoints and hopefully arriving at more informed final conclusions, though that's,
Yeah.
I guess, redundant, it will still upset a lot of people and alienate some listeners. But at some point, even though this bias is good in the local level, I mean, it has to be overruled in the purpose of intellectual spirit.
It's a perfect example. Suppose you wanted to bring voices that have a sort of unpopular position to take a really hot button issue on trans issues.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think from the standpoint of the broader intellectual community, it's very valuable for you to be talking to somebody like that. Just like it's very valuable for Joe Rogan, a conservative podcaster, your opposite number in the podcasting game, to interview somebody who has very liberal attitudes on trans issues. But it's in neither one of your interests. You would both get people angry at you. It will not benefit you.
It is interesting. I mean, I admire that tremendously about people like Rogan or your friend Sam, that they'll have people from both sides on the podcast, but even though they ultimately get a lot of hate for it.
Yeah. It's complicated. I mean, you could say there's a niche for people who do that sort of thing. And then they have their own tribe, the tribe of the heterodox people who talk to everybody. But the tribe of the people on the left and the tribe of the people who are on the right are much larger tribes.